Welcome to the Nearly Enlightened podcast, a high vibe toolbox designed to help you connect to your body, mind, and spirit. I am your host, Gianna Girusso, and I'm here to share tools, conversations, and insights to help you on your journey of self discovery. This podcast is all about exploring what it means to live a conscious, connected, and nearly enlightened life. Because the truth is, the answers aren't outside of us, they already lie within. Let's dive in. Today, I am joined by Tiffany Baskett. She is a mom, a healer, a yoga therapist, and an advocate for diversity in the wellness space. We first met in the Booty Yoga 300-hour teacher training. And honestly, Tiffany, you are one of the most inspiring women that I have met, even to date.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just loved your approach to healing and the body, and you really inspired me to keep going and to keep learning. And that was like one of the reasons I did my lymphatic training after the 300 hour.
Oh, awesome. I love that.
So tell us a little bit about what got you started on your journey.
Oh, man. Okay. So I'm going to go kind of far back and then pop around a little bit because it's multi-layered and multifaceted as most things are in our lives. I was a dancer from age 3 years old. So movement has always been a thing in my life. Once I got injured, I was told to do yoga. And at 17, you're like, what? Get out of here. That's so boring. But it literally became a part of my life. Like even when I was pregnant, I did prenatal yoga. And eventually it just kept being a thing. So I used to teach like 30 different types of fitness formats. And somehow Booty found me. So then I started teaching Booty, but it wasn't ever like the pinnacle. So like you, I just wanted to learn more. I wanted to know more about all the styles of yoga and all the styles of movement. And I wanted to be a doctor at one point. I wanted to be a pharmacist in this, I call it the sick care system now because,
Yeah.
get people on the pills is not really healthcare.
Nope.
That spiraled into like, oh, maybe physical therapy. And then I was like, oh, actually fascial stretch therapy, because physical therapy, you get the same exercises just based on like what part of the body is injured. You don't look at the whole person.
Right. And
So
when you're talking about fascia, all of these places are connected. So if you're only
mhm,
isolating that one part of the body, then you're kind of like you're missing the big chain.
yes. And not only that, but when I got into the neuromyofascial space, like even further than just fascial stretch therapy and going into neurovascular with the veins and the circulatory system, there's so many emotions, memories, and feelings that get stored in the body that also get skipped over in the healthcare system. It's more like they're literally just looking at the symptoms, but the causes are so much deeper or higher or more rooted than just what's taking place in your physical body.
Right. And they're treating the symptoms. So they're just putting a band-aid over those symptoms and not finding out like what is underneath all of that.
Yes.
There are a few good doctors though that are talking about this. So it gives me hope.
Same, me too. I just had someone come in who had surgery and their doctor left their fascia. So her healing process is so much easier and so much quicker because sometimes they will literally just cut that out along with the muscle or along with the tendons. And I'm like, how have we not realized fascia is important?
I know. And like one of the ways that they treated like tight fascia in the feet was to cut it. And it's like, oh, well, that's causing like a world of other issues. So I'm glad that we're starting to talk about it now. It wasn't something that was really studied until pretty modern times. So it's kind of crazy that we just like didn't think this was important and it was just part of the body that we just threw away. And it's kind of like the lymphatic system too. Like modern science has only really studied it for the last 30 years. So there is so much undiscovered territory there.
Yes. I just spent a month in Thailand, and when we got to the lymph system and where it drains, I was like, this is crazy. No one would think that from here you're getting drained in your skull. And there's a space in the skull. And then in the upper body, underneath the arms, behind the scapula, and then in the lower body, kind of basically in the ilium where the psoas is. I'm like, oh, that's important to know.
Yeah, so important to
Where do
know,
things
especially.
jump into?
Yeah. And the fact that the lymphatic system doesn't have its own, like, it's not like the heart where it has like a pumping mechanism.
Right.
It literally only works when you move.
Yep. Yeah. So important.
Yes, it is so important. So, speaking of movement, you are kind of leading the charge in the yoga world, I think, of bringing more education to the yoga world in, I think, a very powerful way because, you learn so little in a 200-hour, and you don't have a lot of time for anatomy or physiology. So a 200-hour yoga teacher is stepping into the space. Like, I remember when I finished my 200-hour, I was like, the first class I taught, I was like, wow, I know nothing. And I had so many people show up with injuries because their doctor told them to, just like you mentioned at the beginning of this episode. And a teacher that's like unprepared to deal with some of the injuries that are showing up in the yoga space, it was one of the driving forces to be like, okay, I am a forever student. I have to keep learning so that I can show up the best that I can. And you are launching a 500-hour now. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yes. I am so uh I don't know, I'm just like so passionate about the body and injuries and adaptability and things like that. But even within my 200-hour, I did have a yin training, a chair training, etc. I think that what happens a lot of times, especially in the West, is we try to take some of the Eastern philosophies and break that down rather than what's happening in the body. And in my 500-hour, because it is Christ centered, so I even go away from some of the other esoteric language of the chakras and the nadis. Like, I give the awareness, so and I draw the parallel lines from Kemet, Egypt, to Vedic traditions in India, also to some of the ancient Asian and Thai traditions, so that you have knowledge of this and that. But what does the Bible say? Why is it important to move? What is meditation when you believe in Jesus or God? And what does that look like and how is it different? And not only that, now that you're going to touch people, what is the quality of touch? So even I have some Thai techniques in there for hands-on assistant things. When you're talking about how to touch people, you have to listen to their body. You can't just go and force them into a pose because you think it should look like something. How did they walk in? I teach people to body read from the time the person walks in the door. What do their shoulders look like? Are they taking steps where their arms are swinging? Are they using heel to ball steps, or what's happening? Because you can see just from that where they're going to be tight, where they're going to have some restrictions in some poses. And if you're really paying attention, you'll be able to address each body in your class and know that all poses are not going to look the same.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to remember. Like, if we're talking, like, this tradition started over 5,000 years ago, and typically it was only taught to men.
Yeah.
So those traditional cues don't work for the modern body, and a lot of them don't work for women at all because our
And
bodies are so different.
yes, and not just men. It actually started with the children, the 12 and 13, because they were
Yeah.
trying to harness their puberty, right? What they were getting ready to come into, harness this energy, and like, this is how you do it. So it is very like restrictive. It's very narrow hipped. It's very, things like that. And even when it comes to sun salutation, so I give the background so people have the background, but I have been, and Father, forgive me if I'm saying anything wrong, but I have been under the guidance that we need to break that up, because it can be, if you hear people talk about how yoga is a religion, it's actually not, first of all. Secondly, you're not worshiping the other deities and things like that if you're not doing certain things like chanting or like calling in those ancestral components, and breaking up the movement even more so that it is not a worship to the sun. It is only a worship to God. Like, how do you move? Every class is different. You have to move intuitively and be led by the spirit. When you're coming through my training, you learn how to focus on how the body moves. How do joints move? What direction do muscles go in? and then use your breath to link the poses or the movements. I like to actually go past poses and go into the movements that are going to be the most functional, stable, expansive, and transformative for every person.
I love what you're saying here because this is something that's kind of new to me. I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school my entire life. And then I feel like because of that, you become kind of like atheist and you turn away from it. So my 20s were all about like finding new age spirituality and like falling into that trap. And then coming out on the other side, now I'm starting to go back to my roots as well. And I've talked about it on the podcast before, where I started to read the Bible again with new eyes.
Yeah.
And so I love this, and I want to know how that distinction happened for you too, where you connect both. Because a lot of people who are practicing Christian, like they will not practice yoga.
Right. Yeah. That distinction happened for me because, like you, I went on the search and I wanted to know all about all the other traditions and religions and movements and things. And what is so interesting is no matter where you go, there are similar types of movements that are in every culture. And so I said, okay, that's a thing. And without necessarily subscribing to polytheism or even like the traditions of Buddhism, because you know what? We don't even, in the West, we don't actually practice Buddhism the way that it is. You know, we have this idea of that it's like sitting still and meditating and getting a mala and repeating these mantras. It's so much more disciplined than even that that I was like, okay, that's a thing. And then Muslims are so disciplined in their traditions as well, Hindus. And I kind of studied all those things. And I was like, but what about the Bible? Why is it different? Why is everything else kind of saying these things and this one thing is saying something a little bit different? Well, because narrow is the way. But we are spiritual beings who have a soul that are living in a physical body. So the breath is important. The Bible even talks about how movement is important and how meditation is important. But you meditate on the word. You don't necessarily meditate to become empty, because if you are void, then other influences are more attracted to you and you can be more susceptible. So
I
even
I love that you're saying that too. And I've said it on the podcast before. It's like if you cleared your mind, you would be dead. Like you would cease to exist. Like you cannot physically clear the mind. It's impossible.
yeah, it's
So
true.
meditating on the word, I like that because it gives you something to focus on, to practice. You're not clearing your mind, you're bringing it back to the center.
Yeah, yeah. And it's for me a lot of healing can take place when you link breath to movement. And when you even think about the somatic movement that's coming through where people are all feel, feel, feel. Yes, and your feelings are not facts. So though you may feel this, like let's talk more about what are the qualities of what you're feeling. Is it tight? Is it stabbing? Is it shooting? Is it sharp? Does it feel like it's not really happening in your body? Because then that might be something else that you're being influenced by that is external. And so you have to guard your ear gates, you have to guard your eye gates. And in order to do that, you really need some kind of personal practice. And I'm never going to try to tell people what to believe, but I feel much more centered, calm, joyous, and at peace practicing where I am reading the Bible, where I am led by the Spirit, and where my conversations are with God, with Yahweh. It is very freeing, not to say that there are not still struggles, not to say there are not still hard things to get through, but there's so much in the Bible that people kind of skip over and or don't know about because perhaps they only go to church and listen to the preacher. There's so much. All the mystical creatures are in there, spaceships are in, like all the things. It's like, but if you're really reading, technically it's just as interesting, if not more so, than some of the other sacred texts.
There's a reason that these books have stood the test of time. And I also want to go back to what you were saying about discipline because it's kind of like a bad word here in the West. Like we don't want to talk about discipline, and that is something that I'm passionate about and bringing to my yoga classes because it's not a fitness practice. And I think here we're starting to water it down where it's just another gym class. It's just another way to like sweat, and it is so much more than that. And I talk about it in my classes all the time. This is a practice of discipline.
Yeah.
Each pose is a practice of discipline. Like so many times you see people half-assing it.
Yep.
And it's like, well, like it's yoga's not a stretch. It it's it's not a physical practice. It's so much more than that. Like I was talking to my class today because people couldn't open their hands up, and I don't use video right now, but so you can't see, but like people are losing the ability to open up their palms, to open up their hands and really engage their fingers. And I just look around and I'm like, this is so interesting. Like, why are we losing this ability? Like, people just flop their arms up in crescent lunge and their fingers are just like, their hands are just like dead fish. It's like, that's part of you. That's like an extension of you. How can you use all of that, fingers to toes?
Yep, everything. And the feet. So I noticed the same thing with feet. And your feet are your foundation. If I'm telling someone to pick up and spread their toes, sometimes it's all, toe on top of toe. They can't really separate it, or they don't know what the ball of the foot is. Or if I'm saying like pull the shins towards each other, they think that means like push their knees back. I'm like, whoa, what kind of proprioception is happening out here in the world? So sometimes it's a practice in patience as a teacher to not only refine your words, but again, it comes down to that quality of touch. If you do, bring your hand to them to bring their awareness to their body, how do you want to touch someone in order to get them to sense something that's more subtle? How you do that is important.
Yes. So, talk to me about like where we both talked about we're forever students. So,
Yes.
what are you currently studying right now?
Okay, I am currently studying Anusara Yoga, which has been a game changer as far as cueing and stability. And I am also in Ayurvedic practice medicine. So,
Ooh,
yeah, that has been so there's this thing called a Khichdi diet, and it sounds
yes.
okay. I never knew about this, but it has helped me. I did it for 3 days, and it literally helped restructure the microbiome, I feel like, in my small intestines. And I was like, I couldn't have thought of that on my own. And oils and herbs and things that people don't think about, like something super simple cinnamon, ginger, cardamom, how that can help balance with heat in your body, but in a way that's going to be anti-inflammatory and help your joints move. Like even more mind blowing, mind blowing. And I know that the allopathic medicine does have its place, right?
Yes,
There's
absolutely.
absolutely a place for what's happening in the West, but God literally gave us
Yes.
things.
And a lot of these herbs are literally invasive weeds, and you have to
Yeah.
wonder like he made it so abundant for a reason.
Yep.
Like
Yes.
these are the healing tools. These are how you get the root cause. So it's funny, I was introduced to Kitchery probably almost 10 years ago now, and I do a 3-day Kitchery cleanse every single winter.
Oh wow. Okay.
I don't put my own spices together. I get them from Banyan. I'm not sponsored by them, but that is the brand that I use. There might be a better one. My friend Tori is an herbalist, and she has been on the podcast before, so I'll have to touch base with her and see what like the best brands are. But it's so, like you said, it's so simple. It's clarified butter, ghee,
Yep.
mixed with these spices, and then basmati rice and mung beans.
Yep.
It's so simple, but it's so healing and you feel the difference right away. I always love to add like cilantro or some kind of fresh something to it too.
Ooh, that sounds good. I did not do that, but that sounds good. I might do that next
Oh
time.
yeah, like chop it up and like throw a ton on top. That is like, oh, it's so good.
And have you ever tried hingwash talk?
No.
Okay, so it is an herb that will help if you have some excess pitta or fire or heat in your body. And I'm trying this out now to see how it helps with hormones as I'm becoming a woman of a certain age. I want to go through this age period pretty smoothly. But hingwash talk, it you could put it as like a seasoning on your food if you want to. It tastes really good. It's gonna have a little bit of salty, also herbal component, but it tastes so good. It can replace like your um, seasoning salt or something like that, and but have a much more cellular benefit to your body.
Oh, wow. I love learning about herbs. I parasite cleanse 3 times a year using herbs,
Mhm.
and that has made such a powerful difference. I literally healed a baker's cyst, like completely gone by week 3 of my first parasite cleanse, has not been back. It's been like 2 or 3 years now.
That's crazy. I
Yeah.
just started parasite cleansing. I only have done one so far. So
How
wow,
was it?
it was so interesting. I can only say interesting right now because I was like, I will do that again.
I know. It's the first one is the worst because I think like there's so much like almost backed up
Yep.
because we don't treat these things regularly in our culture. And going back to the herbs, one of the other things I wanted to mention is Tori also talks about this on her social media pages, but women in certain cultures do not experience perimenopause and menopausal symptoms or side effects because of the herbs that they use, because of the preparation that they support their bodies with. So I think that that is very interesting, and I think that it's also very interesting that in our culture we don't parasite cleanse. You know, this brings up, and we were saying the last time we saw each other was like right before 2020, and that I think we graduated our 300-hour teacher training on February 22nd, 2020.
Yep. That's when it.
And then like weeks later, all hell breaks loose. And I feel like that was like really preparing me for what came next
Yeah. Same.
and like supported me through. But that was like a huge topic during that time is, you know, the ivermectin and does it work? Does it not work? Is it a hoax? But we don't parasite cleanse here in the West. We're
Yep.
mammals. You have to wonder why. You know, my cousin rides horses and they cleanse the horses 3 times a year. So, like, I don't know. It's so weird to me. Farm animals get cleansed 3 times a year. Like, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, I don't know. And especially with the type of food and the things that are being put in the food here in the West. I have to say I'm so grateful for RFK right now, just kind of shining a light on some of those things that people have been saying for a while, but then called like conspiracy theorists. But this is literally bad for you. This literally causes ADHD. This causes autism. There are studies that show this. And so I'm glad that people are starting to know that, but even just to get on a whole food diet or to fast for 3 days. So if someone's not ready for parasite cleanse, one thing that stood out to me with Ayurvedic medicine is you don't want to have them completely switch up their lifestyle so quickly because then they'll just revert back. But what they could start with is try a 3 day juice fast or a 3 day water fast, or where they're fasting until 6 p.m. and then doing a khichdi, right? So you can weave in these things until you're ready for something big like a parasite cleanse or to do a dry fast for 3 days. Because that is insane, I want to say. A
Yeah,
dry fast,
I
no
haven't been.
water, no nothing, barely made it.
Yeah, I have not done that. I've done water fasting, khichdi cleanse, juice cleanses, but yeah,
Mhm.
not that. But even something as simple as moving your lymphatic system, massaging near your collarbones, like start there. Totally doable. Like sitting at the TV, doing, you know, whatever you're doing, just massaging lightly near the collarbones, like just start to get your lymphatic system moving. One thing
Yeah,
that I love in Ayurveda is CCFT. It's cumin, coriander, and fennel seed, and you make a tea with it, and that really helps to get the lymphatic system going. And
yeah.
that is something that I've used for a long time now. And I am going to be superstitious and knock on wood here, but I have not gotten a cold, flu, or sick in the
Hmm.
last almost 2 years.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I had COVID 5 times, and it literally ended up being kind of like a cold. It lasted less than 48 hours. And the only reason that I knew is because I was like, oh, I feel weird. That's the other thing is when you start to become aware of the subtleties, your proprioception, neuroception, like what are the thoughts, what are happening, your nocioception, what is your pain perception, and your interoception, what are you hungry? Are you this? Are you that? And are you really that? Or is it a feeling? Anyway, when you're more aware, you can notice when things are off. And it might be like a little bit off, but every single time, just because of all of the fear. And I also never closed the studio because I said, well, it's essential. It's essential to the community.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be very clear. I had the COVID testing strips. I would sometimes go to CVS and I had it. And I was like, okay, great. I noticed this. And then I would use things like ginger teas, some turmeric, cumin, all of the things that they say are not going to help. Absolutely do.
Absolutely do. I have always had a healthy distrust for modern medicine because modern medicine is what almost killed me as a child. I had chronic strep throat that no one could diagnose. Like, for some reason, they weren't testing me for strep. And I lived with that for years until one doctor was like, this poor kid has been suffering with strep throat. Um, and my mom has always been a little bit more like crunchy mom leaning, even before it was cool. So herbs have been a big part of my life, and I grew up in a very Italian household, and oregano and olive oil are used for literally everything. It's like my big fat Greek wedding with the Windex. Like, that is the way my family is with oregano and olive oil. It will fix anything. And oregano is one of like the most healing herbs. It's anti-parasitic, it's antiviral, it's antifungal. It's like an antibiotic. So it's like interesting to see how different cultures use these herbs. And like, I believe one of the blue zones is in Italy, and like you have to wonder why. Like, their use of herbs is interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
And we have fennel in Italy because of trades with India. So it's very interesting to see how all of the healing cultures are connected.
And it's also interesting and a little disheartening that it's so hard to find here. You almost have to go to the farmer's market plus an herb shop plus find somebody who came from India that brings everything in, It's like going on a wild goose chase sometimes.
I know. I used to get cacao from a lady that would bring it back from Guatemala, and it was like a joke. It was like almost like dealing drugs. Like, we would meet in a parking lot and she would give me a black brick of cacao and I would give her cash, and I was like, this is literally so crazy.
So crazy.
Like that, but I wanted to make sure I was getting like the purest best stuff, and like that is like sometimes you got to go digging a little.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not going to get it at Whole Foods.
We used to be kind of like that with castor oil. My grandmother used castor oil for a lot of things. So disgusting. But I didn't have strep throat as a child, but I was allergic to smoke. And my dad smoked. So I always had bronchitis. And it wasn't until my great grandmother, actually, she got some mint leaves and she like boiled them in a pot, and she had me just kind of go right over the pot and breathe it in. And I was like, this is interesting. I mean, I'm a kid, I don't know what I'm doing. But even then, she was like, no, this will help with your bronchitis. And I was like, okay, great. And it did.
Yeah. All of those little tricks worked. Like same thing. My dad used to go and pick white pine needles when we were sick, and he would boil like white pine needles, like this bark looking thing, and a lemon, and we would drink it. And then like the next day you would feel better and you were like, what was that?
Yes. Something happened the generation between like our grandparents to us. I think conveniences made things seem better, but really we kind of cut out a lot of the good or a lot of the beneficial things.
Speaking for my family, I think it was a little bit because I'm first generation. My dad was born and raised in Italy.
Okay.
And I think it was assimilation. Like they felt such not pressure to assimilate, but like they were coming to the best country in the world and they were getting this new life. And so I feel like they wanted to assimilate so much that some of those things kind of got left behind. But
Yeah.
it's funny because the like you said, like the cells, the tissues remember. So I think that was like a huge part of my awakening was like remembering all of these things and then getting curious because I was lucky enough to have all four of my grandparents until I was 27. And so I really got to dig in and to be like, okay, what were all these weird things that you guys used to do when we were little? I need to know
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah. I'm grateful for the last few years that I had with both of my grandmas. They lived into their 90s. And I would sit with them and record conversations. And I would ask these questions like about our family, about the herbs that they used to use, about their favorite things to grow, because eventually I would like to have a garden. And if I listen back to those conversations, it's like it seems so simple, like a much more simple time, a much more simple way, but they had so much knowledge that I almost just cry every time if I listen back. And especially while I was sitting with them, I was like, I don't understand why we weren't all sitting at your feet the whole life that we've lived, because you know everything almost.
It's incredible. And I think like we lose that in our culture a little bit because we kind of don't have the same respect for elders that past generations have had or other cultures have. And I'm really lucky to have like a close knit family. So I kind of did get that like raised by a village kind of vibe. But yeah, I mean, there's so much time that it was like, oh, it's not cool to hang out with my grandparents. Like, I don't want to be doing that. But like, yeah, they
Right.
have so much knowledge. And in my 20s, I actually lived upstairs. My grandparents lived on the second floor of an apartment building. I lived on the sixth floor. So I really got to spend a lot of time with my paternal grandparents as an adult. And it was so interesting hearing their stories from World War II and because they lived in Italy. They were like in the thick of it.
Yep.
Um and just like literally poor farmers in Italy and how they managed like they did not have electricity or running water and my dad was born in 1955. It was like not that long ago.
Yeah.
So when they came here, it really was a whole new world.
Yeah. That is so cool.
Yeah,
I think that we can bring that back. And that is one of the things
I
that I try to
agree.
do with my son is, turn the TV off. We have days that we sit and just talk to each other. And luckily he's a martial artist, so he's not too much into TV and he doesn't even have a TikTok, which is crazy because he's 16. But he's like, no, I don't want to do all that. I don't need all that. I'm gonna go and
Smart.
study this and I'm gonna study that. And he teaches me. And and he's homeschooled. So we get to make the world the teacher for real, for real. And I want to bring, and we are now with my mom, so he gets direct access to her and the knowledge that she has too, and some of her not regrets, but things that she wished she would have done differently with me. She does right with him, and I get to learn how to be a better parent along with my parent, which is interesting. But I also grew up Southern Baptist, and I was going to say with unlearning things or assimilating to things that certainly was a part of the church system that I think people get hurt by. Is they go to church, they see these things, they see these people not being perfect, for which no one is perfect, first of all. And just because people hurt you, that doesn't mean that God hurt you or that Jesus did it to you. So you have to have your own relationship. But regardless, I'm watching my mom renew her relationship with God in a different way. And learning alongside her helps me guide myself as a parent. And then I bring that into my programs because it's so interesting how much the formative years of our lives take control of the adult parts of our lives.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was just saying this past weekend that we're all basically like her 8-year-olds running around in adult bodies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredibly insane, but it is a thing. And I'm trying to catch it with my son for the last 4 years. So I don't know. We'll see. But
Is
I
that when you started homeschooling?
yes.
How has that journey been? I mean, you're a natural teacher, so it probably wasn't that difficult.
Well, luckily they have these things where you can do classrooms online and you can have direct access to a teacher. So for subjects like physics and his pre-calculus and his AP world history, we have teachers. I was like, this is beyond my scope of knowledge. I will never, I will never give you wrong information or bad information. And let's also look at this. So I like to focus on the seven sacred sciences with him, which would be geometry, arithmetic, and then with language, there's 3 of them in language. But how we talk to each other is also important. And when I'm talking to him, sometimes I talk to him like he's a peer. And other adults in my family are like, you give him too many choices, too much this, too much that. And I'm like, well, he will never know how to form an opinion if I don't cultivate that. He will never know how to make a decision if I don't give him options to make a choice. So homeschooling, when we're going through the curriculum and making sure that we're not only in line with the state, but that we're doing things that he's also interested in, it's been interesting because he and I are different, but same. It's hard to describe. It's like that is definitely my son, but also he's on another level.
That's like the most amazing part of when you're talking about generational healing is like looking through things through that lens.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes.
amazing. I'm so happy to have talked to you today. Is there any way so first of all, when does your training start? Is there still time to sign up?
Yes, it doesn't start until January. There is still time to sign up, and I would love that. And anybody who wants to get in contact with me, you can do so on Instagram at True Align Life or at the Tiffany B. They can also read more about the program, more about me, more about one-on-one sessions with me at truealignlife.com. Because I'm still doing neuromyofascial sessions, which is kind of a cross between physical therapy and massage therapy all at once, and therapy, because people end up talking, how the
Yep.
issues are in your tissues and they come
Yep.
out.
They certainly do.
And I'm doing some Ayurvedic consultations as well, which is amazing. And then the program. So they can learn more about that at truealignlife.com. And if they're in Atlanta, they can come and take a class at the Fitness Collective. So there's group options and a sauna here at the studio and all of that. So there's multiple ways.
Oh, that's so nice. And your trainings, are they online, in person?
They are
Oh,
hybrid. You can do online or in person until the very end. At the end, we have a 1 week retreat, and that's already included in the price. So your food and your stay for the 1 week retreat at the end is the only time everybody is mandated to be in person. But that's where we let it all integrate and implement. And a lot of the online portion they'll do on their own. But when we get together, whether they attend our live sessions online or in person, we call them the implementation labs, because you will have, this part to read, but now when we get together, we're doing. And I think that's also a piece that's missing in some trainings where you're not doing as much. You're not able to practice cueing. You're not able to practice how to stand, what to do, how the body works. And even when we're talking about anatomy, if I'm talking to you about the arm lines, encompassed in the arm lines is even the heart. So the pecs, the heart, the chest, the biceps, triceps, all the things in the forearms, the fingers, digits, all of that. We look at things globally and then go locally.
thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Nearly Enlightened podcast. If this conversation resonated with you, I would love it if you shared, left a review, or if you reach out to me and let me know your thoughts. And if you're looking for more ways to deepen your connection to body, mind, and spirit, check out my Meditate to Elevate guided meditation portal or visit nearlyenlightened.com for more resources. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and remember the answers already lie within.